Hey everyone, wanted to do a quick video today on how to replace the rear shocks on your Gen 3. Now this is a pretty simple process, but I wanted to show you guys what I'm doing. And the reason I'm doing it is because you can see I'm leaking fluid out of both of these. It's starting to get a little bouncy in the back. I have had these shocks, these Bilstein 4600s on here for the last 4 years. And I have put them through a lot of miles, 60,000 miles of rock crawling and abuse. I've got them paired with the Old Man Emu heavy duty springs back here, and as you can see, they're leaking, they're breaking down on me, and so I'm going to replace them. Now I really like them, so I'm going to replace them with the exact same thing. Pick these parts up from Luso Overland, and right here we're going to get into how to actually take this off. Now the Bilsteins, they do have a hex in the top of this. Now mine, like yours will probably be, is full of dirt, full of grime. It's gonna be really hard to get an Allen key in there. Furthermore, this right here is exposed to all sorts of elements, and so it's going to want to seize and get stuck. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to, because I know I'm replacing these, I'm gonna cut this boot off. I'm gonna take a knife and I'm gonna cut into here, and I'm gonna use a vice grip to clamp onto this shaft so that I can spin this off. So let me get that cut out, and I'll show you guys how to do this and make it a little bit easier on yourself. All right, before I get too much further, I want to talk to you guys about the tools I'll be using for this job. Now, I'm replacing this Bilstein 4600 with another Bilstein 4600, and so the measurements are going to be a little different, but in my case, these are the only tools that I'm going to need for this job. I'm going to be using a vice grip to hold the shaft. I'm going to be using a hammer to drive out some bolts if they get stuck, a pocket knife to cut the boot, and then the axle, or the nut that goes through the bottom of the shock shaft right there into the trailing arm. You're going to need either an impact or a breaker bar in a 22 millimeter socket, as well as a 22 millimeter wrench. For getting the top hat off the shock, you're going to need a 17, and then this is a 5 millimeter, at least in this case for the Bilsteins. This is how I'm going to assemble it. So let's get back into it now that I've showed you the tools we're going to need. You're also going to need a jack, and one that's big enough to be able to lift the tires off the ground. That's going to be the first step, is jacking up your car so that there's no weight on your wheels. All right, so I've got my vice grip on here. You can see I cut through this guy, and you never want to do this, obviously, when you're using the shock or you're reusing the shock, because this dust boot keeps crap from getting in here and messing up that seal. And ultimately, this seal is what has gone bad right here. You can see right there, that guy's popped right off. So this has been leaking fluid, and so this shock is toast to me. So what I've done here is I've grabbed this because this guy right here is attached to this shaft. And if I get a wrench on here to loosen it, it's gonna spin that shaft. And if I don't have something clamped down here, it's just gonna spin and spin and spin. And so I'm gonna get this vice grip real good and tight, lean it up against the body of the car right here, and I'm gonna use that to work this nut off so that I can get this top hat undone. All right, so I just got this unscrewed. From there, the trick worked great. Just get the vice grips nice and tight on the shaft. The reason you don't want to do this if you're reusing this is, one, the dust boot, but two, you're gonna mar this shaft, and that's what breaks down that seal in there, and so you don't want any kind of marring on this shaft. In this case, not a big deal. Here's a good thing to keep in mind. This is pretty intuitive once you do a couple of these, but if you're new to this, keep these in order. So I take these guys, make sure they're in order, take that bushing, and make sure I know that all of this goes on top. That way when I pull this guy down, when I pull this all the way out, I have a good idea of where these washers and bushings go. So I'm gonna get this taken out down at the bottom. I'll show you guys how to do that, and we'll get this thing replaced. All right, now I'm here underneath the car. Here you can see the leaking shaft, or the leaking shock, and this is where it mounts into this lower control arm. So I've got my impact here, and it's really easy. There's just two bolts. There's the one up there connecting to the shaft, and then there's this eyelet down here. This is a 22 millimeter, so I'm gonna use my impact and a wrench on the other side to zip this off, and then I'm going to be able to remove this shaft, and we can see how bad the damage is. All right, once you get the nut off of here, go ahead and grab a hammer, and very carefully, so that you don't mar this up, go ahead and push that back through the arm. There's gonna be a little bit of pressure, downward pressure from that, but a couple light taps on this bolt right here should be enough to push it out and get it replaced. All right, so there you have it. This one's out. Again, you can see it's just leaking like crazy. And that's because of right here. You can already see how much fluid is gushing out of this thing. Basically, at some point, this cap came off and this guy came up and a bunch of dirt got in that seal and totally ruined that seal. So I'm hoping this will dramatically improve my ride quality for this. Here's another thing to point out. Look how rusty this bolt is. I take pretty good care of my vehicle, but I live up here in Montana. And so there's all sorts of road grime that's gonna get to this. So one thing I'm gonna do is you can either replace these. My threads look okay to me. Or you can clean these up. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this to the wire wheel and then I'm gonna cover it in oil. And not necessarily engine oil, but WD-40 or PB Blaster or something when I put it back in. And that'll just add a little bit of corrosion resistance and it'll make this job easier on the way out. Because even with the impact, it was a fight to get this bolt out. So out with the old, let's put the new in. If you guys are curious about the part number for this shock, there you go. You can also just find it at Luso Overland. One thing to keep in mind is when you do this, you'll get a new bushing down here, as well as new bushings up top. So that's really nice. Even that right there will improve the ride quality a little bit. Also, here's that hex that I was talking about earlier. So when I go to put this back in the car, I will be using an Allen wrench that goes right in there. This is a 17 nut. I'll use an Allen wrench. And the idea here is you want to get this snug, but not super tight. You'll strip that out and that'll be a huge pain in the butt. But that, if you put an Allen key in there, it allows you to hold that shaft that runs the length of this. And that allows you to actually get this tight. So let's get it installed. All right, got the bottom bolt in over there. I'm not sure 100% which way it's supposed to go, but I like to put the nut facing forward. I don't know, that's how it came out. That's how I put it back in. I like to put that in first, and then I like to come up here. Now it's worth noting that you'll probably have to compress this a little bit. If you just put your body weight on it and push down, these are stiff shocks, but they will compress. So as you can see here, I followed the same order that I took these off. I've got a washer, I've got a bushing with the skinny side facing up, and then I've got this guy. This comes new with your new shocks. There's gonna be a sleeve in here and a bushing on top. So you want to get that bushing, or you want to get that sleeve to help orient the shock inside of the body right here. So that's going to go inside there. And then the bushing is going to go right on top here. Then in addition to that, I'm going to have another washer that goes on top of that. And then I'm going to have my nut. The washer looks like this. It's this guy right here. So that's going to go right on top here. And then I'm going to have the nut. Now there's a couple different ways to get this shock to compress. With it bolted in down there, the easiest way is to let the body weight of the vehicle just kind of come down on this, and that's going to push this shock body all the way up because there's more play in here. There's about an inch of additional play in this area where I can't, like you can see, I can't get to the top of that nut there. So what I'm gonna do is, now that I've got that bolt in, I'm gonna lower the vehicle just enough that this is poking all the way through. And like I said, I'm just gonna get that down till it's snug. I don't wanna go gorilla tight. I don't need to, you know, it just needs to hold it pretty much in this place using the bushings. So I'm gonna let it down and get to tightening that. All right, now the vehicle is down, it's on its own way, and you can see here, you should have enough to get this nut threaded on here. You shouldn't be fighting with just like one or two little threads. You want this to be as clean a purchase as possible because this is what's holding your shock from coming out the bottom of the vehicle. So now I'm gonna get an Allen key and tighten this down. All right, I just noticed that when I was putting on this one of these guys has, it's a little bit bigger, and the other of these bushings has that kind of lip to it. As far as I know, it doesn't matter which one, like top or bottom, you put this on. The important thing is this is what's in the middle of that, and so it's giving you a little bit of cushion. So that doesn't really matter as long as you make sure that this lip is going in between where the shock actually bolts and mounts. All right, here you see how I've got this Allen key set up. This is a 5mm Allen, and I'm just here by myself. So what I'm gonna do using just one hand is I put it in the top of that shaft, and then I'm gonna wedge it up against the body of the car like I have here. And then I'm just gonna very casually, calmly, like I said, don't go too hard. I'm gonna tighten this down. And what I'm looking for is there's almost no resistance right here. It's just normal ratcheting. And then as soon as I feel like it's starting to get tight, I'm just gonna snug it up and I'm gonna leave it. There might be an actual foot-pound value to this. The hard part is you can't get a torque wrench on there with this setup. And so you have to do it by feel. And so go nice and easy. You don't want to strip it out. If you strip it out, you're gonna have a bad time trying to get it back out. So go nice and easy until it's just snug, and then you'll be ready to go. And there you go. Now it's snug down, it's tight. I want to show you guys for reference, at least on my car, this is where I'm at. So you use maybe 1.5 times the thickness of this nut is sticking up above it. And so, like I said, it's very clear where it starts to snug up, where it starts to get tight, and you just go a little past that. It's a nylon lock nut, so it'll stay on. But to give you guys an idea, that's about how much thread I have sticking up after I get this thing nice and tight. All right, now that that side's done, let's move on to this side. Should be nice and easy now that we've done it before. Let's get this knocked out and replace all this blown shockage with nice new hardware. All right, so there you have it. New shocks are in. Now, the wheel's sitting a little weird because I need to drive this forward, but this is going to dramatically improve my ride quality. Obviously, having blown shocks is not going to dampen very well, but also it's a safety hazard. If the rear end of this car is bouncing around, that's no good. So if you guys are interested in doing this, I mean, you figure this car is a 2003. It's already 20 years old. The shocks that were in it, totally blown from the factory. So I've had these for 4 years. It was already time to replace them. It might be time to replace yours as well. It's a great way to get more stability and bring that kind of fresh ride feeling back to your 20-year-old car, as well as perform better off-road. So these do a lot better off-road than the stock ones. I want to encourage you guys, if you're at all interested in doing this job and you kind of don't know where to start, or you're looking for a little extra help, check out Lusso Overland. That's where I buy my stuff. He's done a great job of sourcing a couple different shocks that you can go with. These Bilsteins, they happen to be my favorite. I went with them again. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys in either gaining the confidence or knowing exactly how to tackle this job. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.